rarely have movies, nay art, been as important as Fletch Lives.
Well, maybe that's an overstatement.
It was so far ahead of its 1989 release that, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, critics and viewers couldn't fully comprehend the enormity of what they were seeing.
Be serious for just 1 minute, okay?
It bravely and boldly tackles some of the most consequential issues of the modern world, from the roles of religion and capitalism to the complexities of identity, metaphysics, and technology. If you're not familiar with the plot, I'll give a quick rundown. Investigative reporter Irwin Fletcher is left a large plantation in Louisiana by his deceased aunt.
You are the major beneficiary of your aunt's estate.
He flies down to investigate and discovers that a televangelist
Have you been saved?
wants the land, preferably for free,
You don't know how much your land would mean to our ministry.
to build another Bible-themed park on. But a local lawyer whose mother was, in his opinion, deceived by the minister into handing over her estate,
They preyed on her faith and her fear. When she was no longer able to make rational decisions, persuaded her to give away our land for their amusement park.
is secretly dumping toxic waste onto nearby land to ruin any future plans the ministry has for the property. This brings us to the first major theme: humanity's relationship with nature. The creation of toxic waste has skyrocketed since the Industrial Revolution, and humanity's had to quickly figure out what to do with it. Our way of dealing with it was not to stop making it, but instead to simply determine where to put it. Director Michael Ritchie and writer Leon Kapitanos take hard-hitting and bold shots at modern industrialization and late-stage capitalism.
Beautiful pastoral countryside blighted by the greed of a few men in pursuit of the almighty dollar.
As this beautiful land is spoiled by a selfish thirst for revenge, with the natural world, as it too often does, bearing the consequences. We learn later of this man's incredible hypocrisy, claiming to revere the local landscape, yet dumping chemicals that will ruin it.
That load of toxic waste heading for my land at Belle Isle.
My land at Belle Isle.
His hobby, taxidermy, symbolizes the contradiction. This Louisiana forest might appear healthy on the outside, but is lifeless within.
What happened to my flower garden? Everything's dead.
Additionally, the poison being dumped on an old slave plantation is a metaphor for how that institution, which lasted for centuries, spoiled not just the South but the whole country, creating timeless ripples.
Your great-grandparents owned my great-grandparents, and that's how it all started.
Like slavery, the toxic waste continues to poison society.
They told me not to worry. Its half-life was estimated at 3,000 years.
This juggernaut of cinema isn't afraid to take jabs at powerful cultural elements who've tried to fairy tale-ize that history. Fletch calls the televangelist
Some deranged Walt Disney.
Combining that with Fletch's dream rendition of is a clear critique of Disney and its depictions of the 19th century South, particularly in the movie Song of the South. Zippity-Doo-Dah originated in that movie, and the all-white cast behind Fletch satirizes Disney's whitewashed version of that time period.
You'll be whistling Zippity-Doo-Dah out of your ass.
Fletch dances with an animated bluebird in said scene, and we learn later that the barrels of toxic waste are codenamed Bluebird.
I agreed to take a shitload of that bluebird crap.
Could this be an extra jab at Disney?
Why is that bluebird?
By associating this charming, innocent animal with toxic waste, is it saying the mouse's idealized South is not only misleading but morally toxic? Yes, the answer is yes.
If they didn't wear those suits, those boys would be so full of holes they'd whistle when they walked.
Moreover, Fletch jokes,
I was born and raised in a briar patch.
making a clear reference to Brer Rabbit.
I was born and bred in the brown patch.
These allusions to Song of the South exemplify this clash between the romanticized South Fletch has absorbed from pop culture. Song of the South was re-released just 3 years prior to Fletch Lives,
Walt Disney's classic Song of the South is back.
and the reality when he gets there.
It ain't safe for a black man to be chasing around these woods at night unless he be handcuffed to a white man.
And the poster parodies Gone with the Wind, another idealized version of the Old South. The screenwriter eschewed stereotypes in favor of personal experience from his upbringing in North Carolina, where he encountered tyrannical police.
What's the charge?
Pissing me off.
And overt racism.
Go back to where you from.
Stereotypes do exist, but they are played with, changed, subverted. Cleavon Little of Blazing Saddles fame gets in on it, portraying a southern black stereotype that challenges viewers' expectations.
How do you do? I be calculus and to be.
Should we be laughing with him or at him?
And I'm extending my condolations.
Fletch's suspicions let us in on the joke.
I wasn't buying his Amos and Andy routine. He seemed a lot smarter than that.
But his unique awareness indicates how well the disguise works on everyone else. Cal hints at his true nature by invoking
Eldridge Cleaver,
who was a key figure in the Black Power movement. By the end, we learn he's a covert FBI agent.
Freeze! FBI!
And Jewish.
Goldstein?
Perhaps even his undercover name
I be calculus and to be.
is a comment on the state of the South, or America as a whole, continuously changing chaos. And pretty well describes the life of Eldridge Cleaver himself, who, after fleeing the country as a member of the Black Panthers, grew disillusioned with communism and eventually returned, found religion, and ran for Senate as a conservative Republican. Another subverted stereotype is the macho biker. We're surprised to see him initially wearing makeup, begging the question of what he was doing before he got arrested, and his demand to Fletch,
"Take your pants off. Bend over."
Ben, nice to meet you.
highlights under-the-surface tensions for this man who perhaps feels that he can't be his true self. The twist of him wearing makeup doesn't come after we've gotten to know him, but in his first scene, letting us wonder about him when he pops up almost supernaturally several more times, causing the makeup to feel ever more incongruous. There's a whole running theme of sexual identity, with even Fletch taking part.
I write under the name of Jane Doe. That's the kind of gal I am.
On top of everything else, I think I'm getting my period.
Oh, are you a Laker?
I used to date one.
Including his disguise as
Billie Jean King.
who was the first prominent openly gay athlete. Fletch's sports interest extends beyond tennis, as his ubiquitous Lakers paraphernalia tells us, especially his watch, that plays a shockingly large role in the story.
That's an interesting watch you're wearing.
It could be a play on the original movie's joke, that this time the watch exists and is elevated to utmost narrative importance, connecting the dots to the villain's henchmen. But that idea would be missing the even bigger picture. For it ultimately suggests that human ontologies are embedded in our perception of time and the persistence of the past, i.e., history is always with us. We can't see it or hear it, but it inevitably affects every aspect of the present and future. Like Fletch's familial plantation or the villain's love for his mother.
Put my mama down.
There are threads running through our lives that have profound effects even if we aren't aware of them. A more apparent theme is that of narcissistic charlatans taking advantage of their followers for personal gain.
If you've got $1,000 in the bank, don't be afraid to send the whole $1,000. I need your money.
Based on several real-life preachers and their scandalous downfalls. During this minister's sermons, we witness this core desire of the human condition to transcend the physical world.
Who's going to be the next one saved?
A theme also explored in 2001. The drive is so powerful that we'll hand over money.
I also know that Joe Bob left you financially stable.
Land.
Persuaded her to give away our land for that amusement park.
And believe in the healing power of being touched on the forehead. It's emphasized by two biblical quotes in this ride through hell. The flesh profits nothing from John 6, and to be carnally minded is death from Romans 8, which both mean essentially the same thing. That we must nourish our souls,
Demons out!
and not just our bodies. The minister is driving home, especially by surrounding these passages in a nightmarish setting, that this is the result of insufficient devotion. But don't worry, he has a way out. Donating to his cause will improve your spiritual standing.
And when you reach the top, you're going to be the target of 20,000 prayers.
The point is lost on this amorous couple, though, who serve as a reminder of the true nature of some of these supposedly pious men.
I have sinned against you, my Lord.
But fails to persuade the cynical Fletch.
My aunt had almost left Belle Isle to some minister. Obviously, at one time, he must have touched her deeply. Since she changed her mind, I guess he didn't touch her deeply enough, or in the right place.
These exploitative and hypocritical practices evoke the time of indulgences, when churchgoers could essentially buy their way out of punishment for absolved sins. This creates a great need to be absolved, and who has the authority to do that but a minister? And this one is mighty quick to dole it out.
And I also slept with my Uncle James.
You are forgiven. You are forgiven, child. You've been forgiven. The Lord forgives you. God forgives you.
For indulgences don't work until the sin is forgiven.
Other sins?
Afterwards, donations can reduce the punishment incurred in this life or the next.
Cash or check or MasterCard.
The seed for this through line is planted early, as Fletch uses a religious exemption to park illegally in Act 1. We can empathize with him, though, for he's barely getting by.
You're right, I've been foolishly squandering my salary on food and heat.
He's an investigative journalist, not because it pays well, but because he loves it.
Peggy Lee Zorba.
Nostradamus.
Victor Hugo. Hank Hilmar. Sir Irwin Mahatma Fletcher.
I'm Claude Henry Carroll.
His boss is ultimately correct.
You have journalistic integrity.
Yeah.
And you'll never give up the quest for truth.
Fletch just doesn't want to admit that his cynical, hard-boiled reporter persona
Wrap him up with the rest of the shit on my desk and have him shipped to my mansion in Louisiana.
is one of his characters. This embodies a deeper human truth. The masks we wear, the roles we play, the seesawing between our outward projections and our inner vulnerabilities. We often create a tough exterior to protect ourselves from the world, even as we seek connection and understanding. Fletch finds this connection with Cal, who quickly becomes his mentor and ally. Their matching stances here subtly underline their similarities, though we may not realize it on the first viewing. They seem like polar opposites, the big city white-collar reporter and the provincial blue-collar caretaker, but they turn out to be far more alike than expected. They both serve and are underappreciated for their important public functions.
I spent 8 nights on my knees for you. 3 guys tried to kill me, and do you give a crap?
Remember, Cal is undercover investigating
Jimmy Lee's finances.
Yep.
and multiple times throughout Fletch goes undercover.
Peter Lemongello.
Ed Harley.
Elmer Gantry, Elmer Fudd Gantry.
Bob Lee Swart.
In his own quest to expose corruption. This represents the similarities and connections we all share with each other. In spite of appearances, we are ultimately more alike than different, and Fletch Lives advises unity over divisions. Human connection is ever more important in a world with rapidly advancing technology.
The new computer disallowed your undocumented expenses. It's amazing. It's all done automatically.
This seemingly innocuous line foreshadows the impending dangers and dehumanization of tech and AI, echoing another theme from 2001.
I'm afraid I can't do that.
As Fletch looks around, seeing more computers than humans. For more on that, check out my previous video. One can't help but also notice that Fletch's quest takes him on a quintessential hero's journey. I have a video about that too.
I see your point.
He starts in his hometown.
Los Angeles late at night is pretty much like any other big American city late at night.
Gets literally called to an adventure.
You are the major beneficiary of your aunt's estate.
Meets mentors and villains along the way, triumphs over evil, and returns home with 2 prizes, a new girlfriend, and
$100,000.
This presciently mirrors the writer's career journey, who, if you'll recall, grew up in the South. He moved to Los Angeles to pursue professional writing in his 20s and made a number of films, some of which Roger Ebert hailed as more intelligent and relevant than most of the serious films around. Fletch Lives apparently summed up everything he wanted to say, for it became his cinematic curtain call as he moved home a few years after its release. If you'll allow me to speculate here, I can't help but wonder if the idea of LA influenced his selection of Louisiana as the best place to send Fletch in this fish-out-of-water story.
Does everything around here come with a head still on it?
You bet, honey.
They have the same initials, but could hardly be more different. Or it could be based on the novelist and reporter who created Fletch, Gregory MacDonald, who himself moved to a southern antebellum farm in the 80s and actively opposed the KKK. This detail lends greater resonance to the film's anti-racist themes. Despite exploring all these complex ideas, I feel I've only glimpsed the tip of a vast iceberg, with uncharted depths and profound implications yet to be discovered. This cinematic masterpiece, like its counterpart 2001, instills a thirst for deeper engagement, slowly driving me insane with its hidden layers and secrets, always just out of reach. It's a testament to the film's artistry that it leaves such an imprint on my mind. drawing me back to its key moments, each one holding the potential for multiple interpretations, and encouraging me to further ponder the complexities of human nature, epistemology, and the future of evolution. It's rare and precious when a film elevates the medium and becomes a catalyst for personal contemplation and growth.
Thank you, sir.
Quiet down.